Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you for having this hearing. Ms. Davis, I want to go back to something that Dr. Clancy brought up, which was Dr. Marchant with Boston University. And during the first question I have is, during that time period, did the NSF have the authority to immediately remove him or anyone from a grant if someone's been put on administrative leave or is under investigation?
So the authority that NSF has with the university is to, we would work with the university to find a replacement PI if the PI is on admin leave or something and it's not meeting the terms and conditions of a grant. So the authority, what we're doing now, the authority didn't change. The only thing that's different is that they have to report to us.
Okay, so during that time period, you did have the authority to. Okay. And
could I make that clear?
Yes.
The authority to work with the university for them to do the removal.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And thank you for that clarification. Yes. I and of course many members have concerns about the recent interaction between Boston University and the NSF regarding this matter. And I actually have some emails between the NSF and Boston University I'd like to kind of walk through. And first of all, let me say thank you for the NSF and Boston University providing these documents to the committee during our investigation. That isn't something that we get a lot of cooperation on with a lot of other agencies, so I do appreciate that. And so, again, this is an email chain between the NSF and Boston University regarding the alleged sexual harassment by a prominent Boston University geologist, Dr. Marchant. The first slide, as you can see that we already have up, Boston University found that Dr. Marchant did sexually harass a graduate student while on a research expedition in Antarctica, which Dr. Clancy has already brought up here today. And he was immediately put on administrative leave. So hats off to Boston University for doing the right thing at that time. And Boston University sent an email to the NSF on December 5th notifying the NSF that Dr. Marchant of his situation and that he currently had an NSF grant. Then on December 11th, 6 days later, after a phone conversation with the NSF, the university followed up with an email asking for clarification. Apparently during the phone call, there was some information that passed along that he could not remain as the principal investigator. But they were asking for clarification from why they would not allow him to continue as principal investigator position on the grant. So if we bring up the next slide, then December the 18th, the NSF stated in this email, there is no NSF policy that supports the statement, quote, that NSF would not allow Dr. Marchant to continue as principal investigator while he's on administrative leave. Even though NSF wanted to remove Dr. Marchant from the grant, apparently it was thought there was no policy to allow that to take place. Further, and a little bit disturbing, on January 22nd, the university then indicated that in this email that due to NSF's inability to force them otherwise, the university would keep Dr. Marchant on the grant, which is what Dr. Marchant wanted. And kind of disturbing to me is that he continued to in this email, he wanted to continue to mentor another graduate student. So then if we go to the last slide, it wasn't until January 25th that the NSF got clarification from upper management that Dr. Marchant was required to be removed as the principal investigator of the grant. This was almost 2 months after the initial December 5th notification by Boston University to the NSF that he had been placed on administrative leave. So my first question is, why did it take so long to determine that Dr. Marchant needed to be replaced as PI?
Thank you. So what you just shared with us here is what we have been addressing. Yeah. This is uncharted territory. We have typically tried to handle Title IX issues within a stovepipe of Title IX. And so what happened here, the the communications were from the program offices, and the program offices were interacting back with the universities. They were talking to each other, and they thought that it's nothing we can do. Well, the director she put together a sexual harassment task force, and that task force were people across the whole foundation. What we learned in that task force, that communication was taking place between the universities and some of our personnel outside of our Title IX role. And so as a result of that, we have put in a communication to all employees. If anybody reach out to you about a Title IX matter, you immediately notify my office, and we will coordinate it. As a result of that, and the lessons we learned from this situation right here, we are now, last Thursday we learned of an issue of a Title IX person being put on administrative leave. Within 2 hours of learning that, we were able to pull together a team, contact the university, and find out what was going on the issue. And as a result of that, we've actually made modification in our Federal Register notice that we're going to put out. So this is unacceptable for us, and it's a lesson learned, and we've acted upon it.
Well, thank you for that, and I think you just answered my follow-up question on that. Was that, does under your current policy give you the ability to address this immediately? And it sounds like not only can you have acted on that as well. But a question back to the December 18th email. It actually said, apologize for the delay in getting back to you. I discussed your question, and when I say your email, regarding NSFs, not yours personally, because I don't know who actually sent it. But so I apologize for the delay in getting back to you. I discussed your question with our policy office in the Division of Institution and Award Support, and they feel that it is an internal Boston University issue, which would depend on the conditions of the administrative leave. And then it followed up as there is no policy. Was the problem in that policy office that they weren't aware of the ability to remove? I mean, where was the breakdown?
So the breakdown is that it's those stove-type approaches. We have typically handled Title IX issues within my office, and the grants and terms is handled in the policy and the grants division. So no one really, it's almost like what we're seeing in Office of Sponsored Research in Title IX. We were not communicating across. We really put the brightest minds together to try to talk about how to tackle this issue. And doing that, that's when we learned, well, wow, we have the opportunity in our grants and award terms and conditions right now to go back to the university and say that this is not, if a person is being put on administrative leave and they cannot adhere to the terms, we can do something. And so it was a matter of communication. One was the science office doing it. When they reached out to that office, they hadn't been, this is uncharted territory. They had not been dealing with issues around sexual harassment in a grants and terms way. Okay.
Well, thank you. One last question. And is the NSF totally reliant on institutions to appropriately deem what is considered the beginning of an investigation?
Actually, so we created the NSF.gov/harassment portal, and the reason that is very key is because we want to do a lot of outreach, so if people can know to reach out to us to let us know if an issue is going on. So if the university is conducting an investigation, failed to tell us something, or failed to conduct an investigation, we can be notified by numerous sources, including the media, and so it's almost another tool we have to catch violators, I would say.
And thank you. I see my time has long expired.
May I please respond?
Sure.
I want to make a really important point apart the Marchand case, and I actually had dinner not too long ago with one of the women who brought forward the allegations, not a client, just a friend in San Diego. It took her until she was tenured, years later, before she felt safe enough to actually bring that allegation. And I wonder how many women were out in the field having rocks thrown at them in the meantime. And so this is a problem we must address, that people have to feel safe to report this. Having rocks thrown at you isn't always thought of as sexual harassment, right? It's not sexual, but it is harassment, and that is an issue as well. I had a third point and I don't remember it. But I think the time that it takes, you know, is really something. Oh, I know what I was going to say. She changed her field. So she went from researching in the Antarctica to researching in the Arctic to avoid this person. She went to the opposite pole to avoid him.
Wow. That is